Hey Ryan, good to see you.
Hello, Ryan.
Um, hey Ryan, good to see you.
Yeah, because it's easier, Donna. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock, so we can begin the session. I'd like to read the same motivation as last week by Pabonka Rinpoche. With the mind of precious Bodhichitta, we can transform this impure body into the priceless jewel of a Buddha's body adorned with the signs and indications, which is analogous to an elixir that can transform base metals into gold. Set your motivation by thinking, for the sake of enacting that transformation, I'm going to listen to this king of instructions. So I'd like to share the screen now so we can say our preliminary prayers together. So I guess we'll go ahead and start with the Refugee and Bodhichitta prayer, although Geshe will recite it again. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. O holy and perfect pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release the rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained. Idam Guru Ratnamadalakam Niryatayami. Okay. So we are on day 29 of the book, Essence of the Vast and Profound. And we are past the root text stating, uphold the principle of the 2 witnesses. And then there is Nagarjuna's quote about the ripe or unripe mangoes. And I'm going to start with the paragraph after the mention about being sly and cunning as a cat. Thus keep in honor and gain or fame and glory that come your way in your innermost heart. Although internally you may be a Dharma practitioner, if your conduct is crude, it will serve as a cause for the many others who rely upon you to go to the lower realms. In particular, Chandra Goleman's 20 verses in the Bodhisattva vow states that the 15th secondary Bodhisattva vow downfall states, not avoiding a bad reputation. Thus, we should conduct ourselves in a peaceful and subdued manner and avoid the type of behavior that will cause others to disparage us. If our actions are faulty and improper, all the Buddhas and the 10 directions, as well as the Dharma protectors onward, and even the virtuous gods will know and understand, therefore we should be very careful. In short, we don't need to despise ourselves, and from the point of view of the perception of exalted wisdom of the Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, they also won't despise us. However, some think that even if you are incapable of practicing Dharma, you will not accumulate negative karma, and that it is best to sit around idly, which is also inappropriate. Presently, we have obtained a human body of leisure and endowment. We've encountered a guru who is like an actual Buddha, and we have met the complete teachings of Sutra and Tantra. This is not something to be wasted. Instead, we should make use of this meaningful life of leisure and endowment and accomplish something that is necessarily superior to being like something inanimate, such as the earth or rocks. Furthermore, according to Indian culture, your actions should be carried out according to the trainings in the exact way that your disciplined elder monk, reading teacher, and so forth ask you to perform them. Also, in the same way as the great monastic seats of Lhasa, you must rely upon your teacher who is responsible for you, your textbook teacher, and so forth. From the time you are a youth and rely upon your excellent teachers, it is extremely important that you carry out whatever they say to do, such as study, contemplation, and so forth. If things don't happen this way, it is extremely regretful because, as the saying goes, the young monk with a great deal of intelligence, a senior monk with few good qualities. The root text states, always rely upon a happy mind alone. A practitioner who has trained his or her mind properly in giving and taking should not be overpowered by whatever happens, whether it is happiness or suffering, as well as good or bad conditions. The Kashmiri Pandit stated, if you're happy, dedicate the collections of happiness. May benefit and happiness fill space. If you're suffering, bear the responsibility of everyone's suffering. May this dry up the ocean of suffering. Thus, when happiness comes our way, we should not have attachment to it for our own welfare, and instead pray that our happiness and happiness like it will come to all living beings. When suffering befalls us, as in the story of Marga's daughter, we should pray, may this sever the suffering experienced by all living beings. Learn how to bring it into the path by thinking, I am enduring this suffering for the sake of all living beings. Also, even when physical suffering befalls us, we should not become depressed, but be capable of relying solely upon a happy mind. Therefore, as I already explained, the name mind training means the source of the city of happiness, which is another way of saying Sukhavati, Abhirati, and so on. Once we think in this way, it will be as Gyalwa Yang Gempa also stated. This exercise of self-reliant, naked introspection, one that foregoes healing rituals or medical treatment for sickness caused by disturbance of the four elements and avoids performing auspicious visualizations, is a quality of spiritual practice that can purge illnesses. This technique that avoids seeing physical imbalances and fluctuating states of mind as obstacles or interferences and turns faults into benefits that bring great progress through the instruction, whose key element is spontaneous warmth, is a quality of spiritual practice that dispels obstructions. Without calling for medicine or bond practices, I maintain great tolerance of illness. By remaining free of doubt, I'm skilled at integrating depth into my practice. Invoking the Buddha throughout the day is an important undertaking. Since my tenure as abbot is over, these diverse experiences that cause both pleasure and pain make no difference to me at all. This ability to maintain great joy inwardly when meeting others, even if it should be a person stricken by the blisters of leprosy, is my beggar's way of remaining at ease. This ability to bear up unexpectedly when needed, even if I should meet with death-bringing executioner, is my beggar's way of integrating every experience into the path. The former spiritual Lord's example was to persevere in the face of hardship, not being subject to the worldly person's sign of desiring this life's happiness. I do not worry about food or clothing. Abandoning all concern for life or limb, I go about however I please. I have succeeded in bringing my practice of the path to its culmination. With an attitude that finds everything acceptable, I do not fret about the three sources of concern and keep my mind relaxed. Without inviting dissatisfaction to any great extent, I ignite great bliss in my mind and go about however I please. I have dispelled the turbulence of discursive thoughts from my mind. The root text states, if you can do this even when distracted, you are trained. For example, even if the mind of someone who is skilled at riding a horse is distracted, the horse will not be able to throw him. Likewise, if our minds are trained properly, we will be able to practice equalizing and exchanging self with others during adverse conditions, no matter how distracted our minds are. When that occurs, it is said that your mind is trained. Even to a lesser degree, you should be able to practice exchanging self with others through recollection when various conditions arise. Even if that happens, it is a sign of having developed a partial experience. The root text states the measure of having trained is reversal. The measure of having trained the mind is that you have renounced self-cherishing so that where you previously cherished yourself, you now cherish others. If a person of the highest mental capacity trains his or her mind, he or she will eventually obtain what is called the concentration of overcoming all phenomena with happiness. At that point, even if someone were to cut an ounce of flesh from the body of that bodhisattva, he wouldn't experience the slightest mental suffering whatsoever, and instead would experience joy and bliss. The root text states, the sign of having trained is possessing 5 greatnesses. 1, by forsaking self-cherishing and voluntarily taking on the welfare of others, you are a great bodhisattva. 2, by not violating the precepts you have promised to maintain, you are a great holder of the Vinaya. 3, by enduring the difficulties and applying the methods for destroying self-cherishing, you are a great ascetic. 4, by continuously employing diligence day and night in the yoga of bodhicitta through equalizing and exchanging self with others, you are a great yogi. 5, the ability to utilize the path of the Mahayana through the activities of your 3 doors, you are a great spiritual practitioner. However, it is just as valid if you practice this Mahayana mind training. Point 6, presenting the commitments of mind training. The root text states, always train in the three general points. 1. With respect to not violating the commitments of mind training, if we abandon our other commitments and vows, such as those of the Vinaya and so forth, with the pretense of being a mind training practitioner, it is in complete opposition to mind training. Therefore, so that such a thing doesn't happen, strive to not contradict the boundaries of whatever precepts and vows you have promised to maintain. 2. Do not let your mind training cause reckless behavior. This is doing things such as saying, I am a mind training practitioner. Therefore, I don't have any self-cherishing. And then digging the earth, cutting down trees where spirits live, disturbing the water where spirits dwell, associating people with infectious diseases, and so forth. That is to give the impression that we are mind training practitioners and then engage in all sorts of crazy behavior. Instead, we should conduct ourselves in a peaceful and subdued manner. In our incomparable tradition, we should train according to the teaching tradition of the greater teacher and Jamgon Totsaka Tsongkhapa the Great. 3. Don't let your mind training practice fall into partiality. Partiality means being patient with those who don't harm us and not being patient with gods and demons that do harm us. Thus, it means being patient with friends, not being patient with enemies, or being able to practice mind training when we are at the monastery, but not being able to do the same in the city. This is stating that we should not let our mind training come to this and should instead have equanimity for all living beings and in every situation, whether at the monastery or in the city. 4. The root text states, change your aspiration, but remain natural. Although we may reach high levels of realization within, through training the mind at the stage of the path of Sutra and Tantra and depends upon the mind, the previous Kadamba stated we should practice Dharma with very little outward display of the amount of spiritual ground we have covered. As this states, under no circumstance should we make an outward display by acting as though we have a high level of spiritual attainment. Instead, we should remain natural and keep our good qualities hidden like a butter lamp inside a vase, which is a special quality of the old and new Kadampas. This is like the case of Bodhisattva Shantideva and others in India. The other pandits only saw him engaging in eating, sleeping, and defecating without showing any other good qualities, whereby he was given the name Usuku and the three conceptions. One day, the pandit said that Shantideva should give a discourse on the Dharma according to the established tradition with the intention of publicly humiliating him. While Shantideva was teaching the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life, the throne he was sitting upon elevated into space. During the chapter on wisdom, his body gradually disappeared. Although he had traveled a great distance, due to the pandit's ear, clairvoyance, and attainment of non-forgetfulness, they were able to mentally retain the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life that they had heard. Even though our realizations may be similar to those of a deity, our actions should be comparable to those of humans, and we should not profess our realizations to worldly persons. We should not act like those who broadcast every little realization that they generate and pretend to be pious. Our outer conduct should be peaceful and subdued according to the previous tradition. As the saying goes, the best practitioner should develop inner experiential realizations of Dharma in a day, but the middling should develop them in a month and the inferior in a year. As it states, we should produce an increase in our experience of the unmistaken noble path of the Sutra and Tantra in a mental continuum. Otherwise, our minds will be the same as they were before we became ordained and will not produce any special qualities in our minds. If there has been absolutely no improvement in a person's mind between when he came from his homeland and today, then his mental progress has stagnated. If you have failed to make any progress in your qualities without even mentioning being a Mahayana mind training practitioner, then you haven't even entered the ranks of a Dharma practitioner and should apply the means of producing progress in your mind. Although glorious Chandrakirti attained union and others didn't see his good qualities and thought of him as nothing special, he melted a drawing of a cow. At one time, when the Duruka War broke out at Nalanda, glorious Chandrakirti struck the head of a stone lion with a rosewood mace. The stone lion came to life and averted the war. Previously at Ratrang, one day when Jontopa Rinpoche, Palden Gompoa, and so forth were staying together, they ran out of sustenance. Therefore, a close disciple said, after that, we don't have any food to offer. Palden Gompoa said, eat this which comes out from my nostril. And the benefactor emerged from his nostril carrying a full horse load of provisions. When this was perceived by Jontopa's clairvoyance, Drom reprimanded him for displaying his magical powers. Thus, in India, as well as here in Tibet, the great scholars and siddhas maintain a common external appearance. It did not show anything beyond being an ordinary person. In the same way, although we may develop realizations of the Lamrim, we are not permitted to proclaim them to anyone other than our Lama, and instead we should keep our inner realizations hidden like a butter lamp within a vase. Nevertheless, it is also not appropriate to carry out our practices in secret and not have any inner good qualities whatsoever. Therefore, even someone like a monk at a monastery should not wish for things such as a colorful storage cabinet, an altar, and so forth, and instead he should have the desire to study, contemplate, and meditate on the Dharma. We should strive with whatever means we can to increase our good qualities of realization so as to progress from generating them in a month to generating them in a day. 5. The root text states, do not express degenerate limbs. Fear not someone has faults such as corrupt moral discipline or has incomplete sense faculties such as being crippled, deaf, and so forth. We should nevertheless not express anything about his or her faults. 6. Do not contemplate others' shortcomings. Do not analyze others' faults. We do not have clairvoyance, and like a bodhisattva covered in ash from a fire pit, we don't know what good or bad aspects someone may have assumed. Therefore, although we see others' apparent faults, it is utterly inappropriate to place our trust in those perceptions and deprecate those persons. Previously, a person heard that a monk he disliked had incurred some serious faults. Therefore, he invited a friend he liked a great deal and said, today we should make a very special unparalleled tea for me, and I shall tell you some good news. When asked what the news was, he replied, I heard monk so-and-so has disrobed. Having said this, he was as happy as a child. Geshe heard this and said, although the person who disrobed incurred some serious faults, the person who meditated with joy incurred much greater negative karma. 7. Purify your greatest afflictive emotion first. Purification is crushing the afflictive emotions by relying upon the antidotes to whichever of the afflictive emotions is the greatest, such as meditating on the unattractiveness of the object for which we have an excessive amount of attachment, and so forth. 8. Abandon all expectation of reward. Do not entertain expectations of results in this life through meditating on mind training, namely results such as honor, respect, fame, and so forth. Also, do not have any expectations of fulfilling your desires for your future lives, not even regarding actions done solely for the welfare of living beings, your desire not to attain liberation for your own welfare, and ultimately even your desire to attain omniscience itself. 9. Abandon poisonous food. Just as it is inappropriate to partake of food that has been mixed with poison, so we should not contaminate whatever virtue we form with the 8 worldly concerns or the conception of self-cherishing. 10. Do not maintain inappropriate loyalty. Do not maintain that which only brings us harm, and do not maintain loyalty to the afflictive emotions. Instead, we should apply whatever it is, the very opposite of it. 11. Do not engage in malicious banter. This is similar to not responding to harmful language with harmful language. We should practice the 4 dharmas of the spiritual ascetic. 1. Do not respond to anger with anger. 2. Do not respond to abuse with abuse. 3. Do not respond to criticism with criticism. And 4. Do not respond to being beaten with a beating. If we practice in this way, we will be following the instructions of mind training to offer the gain and victory to others. We will even be able to put into practice the advice to accept loss and defeat. 12. Do not wait in ambush. This refers to thinking thoughts such as, I am going to sit in a back alley holding a knife so that I can harm the person that harmed me. It also refers even to someone like a monk with thoughts such as, when I am the monastic disciplinarian, I am going to pay close attention to him. These kinds of thoughts are in direct opposition to practicing mind training. Therefore, it is inappropriate to respond with harm to the harm we encounter. 13. Do not strike at the vital point. This refers to revealing the faults of a person's defects. Once we strike the mind of our adversary, he or she becomes discouraged, depressed, and so on. Also, it is inappropriate to recite life mantras toward non-humans wrathfully and to recite the wrathful mantras of personal deities to subdue spirits, since these actions create an enormous amount of suffering in their minds. 14. Do not place the load of a zoe on an ox. If we see that we have a big responsibility coming our way, we should not quickly shift the responsibility to someone else or place the blame on someone else for something we ourselves should be doing. 15. Do not engage in corrupted practices. We must not let our mind training become defiled by the thought and immediately accept defeat and bear the loss so that others will not have to do so out of our deepest desire to be the thought of as someone noble for the sake of wealth, fame, and so forth. Nor should we train the mind for the sake of pacifying sickness, harm from spirits, and so forth. This is true even while practicing cure. If we practice cure out of contempt for gods, demons, and so forth, with the wish to bind them into servitude, and the wish that once we subdue them, we will have subjugated them and will serve as their master and so forth, this is perverted practice of virtue, so that it doesn't come to that. At every turn, we should have love and compassion. Make sure it only be used as a means of enhancing the two types of bodhicitta. 16. Do not sprint to win the race. This refers to striving to quickly obtain something that is a shared object of enjoyment or public property, such as an shawl.
Excuse
For
me,
yourself.
Venerable.
Yes.
Your sound is getting a little bit strange. Maybe try turning off your video for a couple of minutes and see if it clears up. It's kind of, thank you.
Let's see. 16. Do not sprint to win the race. This refers to striving to quickly obtain something that is shared object of enjoyment or public property, such as an outer monk shawl for yourself, out of fear of losing it to someone else. How is that? Is that better?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. It also refers to hoping to take all the credit yourself for some benevolent deed that was done in common with others by saying, I did that myself. These are called unacceptable actions that are contradictory to the practice of equalizing and exchanging self with others. 17. Do not turn a god into a demon. If your reliance upon a god becomes a means of harming yourself, it is called turning a god into a demon. In the same way, once mind training becomes a factor assisting our afflictive motions by our ostentatiously pretending to be meditating on mind training so that others will say we are good Dharma practitioners, as well as using mind training to serve our pride and so forth. This is like turning a god into a demon, and something we should not do. Meditation on mind training should be used as an antidote to our self-cherishing and should become a means of abandoning our self-cherishing. 18. Do not seek misery as a means to happiness. This refers to striving or wishing to obtain others' means of happiness for ourselves. For example, once we hope that we will receive personal gain by seeing others' relationships, neighbors, housemates, and so on, and thinking, if he were to die, I would obtain these various things. We are meditating on suffering befalling others, such as their death and so on. Thus, up to this point, we have covered the 18 commitments of mind training. Point 7, the precepts of mind training. There are 22 precepts of mind training. 1, perform all yogas through a single means. All of our yogas of daily actions performed by body and speech, such as those related to food and clothing, our sleeping quarters, walking, moving around, lying down, and sitting, as well as the yogas of whatever spiritual practice we perform, should be embraced solely by bodhicitta, equalizing, exchanging self with others, as taught in the completely pure sphere of Conduct Sutra. We should also practice according to the compositions of Chusan Lama Geshe Gyatso Rinpoche and other previous holy beings that are arranged in a blend of verse and prose. 2. Apply all countermeasures by 1. Like a doctor using medicine as a countermeasure to pacify an illness that does not help the illness, if someone is engaged in spiritual practice and an illness and so forth occurs while he or she is resting after meditating on mind training, and that person thinks, through my meditation and mind training, things did not go well for me and has gotten progressively worse. Favorable conditions are rare, illness, harm from spirits, and afflictive emotions are plentiful, and people act hostile toward me. And through this, it is possible to develop the mistaken, heartfelt wish not to meditate on mind training. Therefore, if something like this happens, you should know that this is an obstacle of Mara. Think, this is a result of the mistaken evil minds that I've developed and have generated up to this point, which are a result of my former non-virtues. Limitless living beings of the world have definitely accumulated bad deeds similar to this. Therefore, may everything that did not go well for them, such as all their sickness and harm from spirits, afflicted emotions, and misfortune, ripen upon me through this action. How wonderful it would be if all living beings were endowed with the most excellent bliss and virtue, and if their mental continuums were to blend with the Mahayana Dharma. After this heartfelt contemplation, meditate on giving and taking, which you should merge together with bodhicitta. Dharma practitioners who are on the verge of developing good qualities should be able to bring into the path the various dangers that arise, as Milarepa and Drupkangpa Gelek Gyatso were able to do. Whatever kinds of dangers arise for a mind training practitioner, they should be used solely as a means for destroying self-cherishing through equalizing self with others and as nothing else. Therefore, we should not employ other means such as rituals and so forth to convert them. 3. There are 2 activities at the beginning and end. Whatever spiritual practices undertake, we should formulate our motivation at the beginning and seal it with a pure dedication at the end. These 2 are indispensable. Therefore, all our virtuous actions should be embraced by these 2. 4. Be patient with.
Venerable Lama, it's
Yes.
happening again. I'm wondering if it would be a good idea for you to go out and come back in, and I can read until you come in.
Oh, why don't you?
Sorry?
Can you just continue?
Yeah, I can continue. I'm just thinking of if you're leading prayers when Geshe comes in, but I'll just go ahead and keep reading.
Okay,
Okay, so we were at
4.
point 4. Okay. Be patient with whichever of the two occurs. Some abandon the Dharma when they become too happy because of affluence, attaining high status, and so forth. Others abandon the Dharma when they experience suffering like illness, criticism, theft, and so on. There are many people who permanently abandon their practice of the Dharma when either of these two situations arises. Therefore, Ngulchu Gyaltse Togme proclaimed, looking like a Dharma practitioner when their stomachs are full and warmed by the sun, and an ordinary person when adverse conditions befall them. To ensure that this doesn't happen, whenever better or worse conditions arise as happiness or suffering, good or bad, you should think, there is no other more productive cause for me to meditate on bodhicitta. You should be able to bring adverse conditions into productive factors for the accomplishment of bodhicitta without relinquishing your practice of mind training. 5, protect the two even at the cost of your life. You should make a concerted effort in the methods for not becoming defiled by the faults of breaking the general Dharma commitments that you promised to maintain, together with the 3 sets of vows, as well as in the methods of not becoming defiled by natural non-virtues. In particular, you should protect as you would your life all 19 of the special commitments of mind training that I have already explained by keeping them pure without any conflicts. 6, always train in the 3 difficulties. The 3 difficulties are: 1, the difficulty of learning or recognizing the development of afflictive emotions such as attachment; 2, the difficulty of overcoming them; and 3, the difficulty of terminating their continuity. Therefore, we strive to recognize the afflictive emotions as soon as they are developed and train sincerely in the means of overcoming them by recalling their faults. 7, adopt the 3 principal causes. The 3 principal causes for the practice of Dharma are: 1, encountering a fully qualified guru as your spiritual guide; 2, having a mind that is suitable for meditation on bodhicitta; and 3, having all the favorable conditions for the practice of Dharma. We will not be able to become authentic Dharma practitioners if those 3 are incomplete. Therefore, we should make a sincere effort with pure prayers to be able to intentionally assemble those in the future by accumulating the causes for the practice of mind training like a waxing moon. 8, meditate on the 3 undeteriorated aspects. These 3 are: 1, undeteriorated devotion for your guru; 2, undeteriorated conscientiousness with respect to the precepts; and 3, undeteriorated delight in mind training. The first is the foundation for developing all good qualities. The second closes the door to faults and transgressions. The third gives power to your efforts to wholeheartedly meditate on bodhicitta. 9, be endowed with the 3 factors you should not be separated from. Your body, speech, and mind should not be separated from the application of virtuous conduct. Sincerely apply yourself to prostrations, offerings, service, mantra recitations, meditating on bodhicitta, and so forth. Even while we are sitting during teachings, if you sit with the essential physical postures, such as the Vajra position and so forth, it is included within the 12 good qualities of ascetic practice. Therefore, it is important for spiritual practice. It would be excellent if you could sit without a back support and sit upright without sleep as a way of supreme transformation. 10, train in impartiality toward objects. Being biased is being able to meditate on patience for friends, but being unable to meditate on patience with respect to enemies, as well as being able to be patient with inanimate objects, but being unable to be patient with living beings. Instead, you should train your mind to be impartial to all, whether they are living beings or inanimate objects. 11, it is crucial to train in everything deeply and pervasively. Mentally examine everything that arises. All activities such as eating, drinking, lighting a fire, and so forth should be pervaded by training the mind in equalizing and exchanging self with others. In particular, don't be biased toward living beings, and instead train in bodhicitta with respect to all living beings as pervasive as space. Furthermore, don't merely pay this lip service, and instead apply the training methods deeply and from the bottom of your heart. 12, always meditate on chosen objects. There are 5 chosen objects. 1, our companions who are equal to us, such as our housemates whom we live with. 2, those who have become our opponents. 3, those whom we have benefited, but who have inflicted harm on us in return. 4, those who, although we have not harmed them, through the force of karma, dislike us as soon as they see us. It is difficult to develop mind training toward these 4 types. Because we are extremely close to 5, our guru and parents, there is a very grave danger of creating serious negative karma through becoming angry with them, despite the fact that it is not the least bit appropriate. Therefore, we should meditate separately on this fifth chosen objects. 13, do not rely upon other conditions. When people are practicing other dharmas and unfavorable conditions occur or the favorable conditions are incomplete, they abandon their practice. When practicing mind training, although there are unfavorable conditions, you transform them into favorable conditions and are thereby able to bring them into your mind training as supportive elements. Furthermore, there are those who put off their mind training due to conditions of happiness or suffering, saying things such as, I cannot practice mind training right now due to severe sun and wind. They are unable to withstand heat and cold for the sake of Dharma, but they can withstand austerities of heat and cold to receive a financial contribution. We mustn't allow ourselves to become like such people. 14, engage in the principal practices right now. Having made the three lower realms our homeland since beginningless lives, we have repeatedly wandered throughout samsara, yet at this moment we have obtained just this one time a human life of leisure and endowment through fortunate circumstances. Therefore, our primary Dharma practice should be for the sake of our future lives more than for the sake of this life. From among the Dharmas of the three vehicles, our principal practice should be the Mahayana. Within that, between explanation and practice of the Mahayana, our primary aim should be practice. Of all other practices, our exclusive emphasis should be meditating on bodhicitta in conjunction with equalizing and exchanging self with others by combining it into one package through the practice of training the mind. 15, do not apply mistaken understanding. There are 6 mistaken understandings. 1, mistaken compassion is not having compassion for those for whom we should have compassion, such as unwholesome wealthy people who are accomplishing the causes of suffering by accumulating various negative actions that are incongruent with the Dharma, and instead pretending to have compassion for someone like a simple monk who endures hardships for the Dharma, or an ascetic who voluntarily accepts the suffering associated with austerities endured for the sake of Dharma. Previously, someone said, poor J. Mila, to which Jetson Milarepa replied, I also have disgust for you. If you pity me, I pity you. Geshe is here.
Please have a seat. Hi, good evening. Good evening, Venerable Hamula. Good evening, Domasi. Good evening, Ryan. Good evening, David. Good evening, Renee. Good evening, Bodhichitta. Good evening, Karen. Good evening, Geshe, Michael. Good evening, Neely. Good evening, Carmen. Good evening, Govina. Good evening, Yashu. Good evening, Infisius. Good evening, Bob. Good evening, Bodhisattva Patrick. Good evening, Mary. Good evening, Lee. Good evening, Nico. Good evening, Anthony. Good evening, Kurt. Anybody watching on YouTube, good evening. Ryan, how are you feeling?
Much better.
Oh, very good. Very good. Sanje chodang soje chodang la chanjo pardon dane dake chuse. Sanje chodang soje chodang la chanjo pardon dane dake chuse. Sanje chodang soje chodang la chanjo pardon dane dake chuse. Lola Penja Sanje and Other Lamrim, me and Jia Omboda, Jajelas or Chichola, Chawajamana. Sanjay Asura, Rabdo Shijin, the Vejuju, the Dashi, Tabechi, and the Division. Namola Yagadan, the Nijigi, the Bodami, Panja Kedon, the Chitin, Kangi to the news of the Tawatan. Odam de la Charles. So, any question, Tomasi?
Yes, there's one question.
Hmm.
This is from, we're in the, it's about 4 pages. We're in day 29, about 4 pages after the section called Point 6, Presenting the Commitments of Mind Training.
Hmm.
And this is the 6th point under that says, do not contemplate others' shortcomings. And so the question is, should we then focus only on one's own shortcomings and work on them?
What is shortcoming?
Faults.
Best things is to see everyone as pure. That's the best thing. That's the best thing for, in order to get like a maximum benefit for yourself. If you see other is something, someone who possesses Buddha nature, and if you look at other, out of love, compassion, respect, kindness, you get maximum benefit. Concentrating or other persons like faults don't get any benefit. First of all, you don't get any benefit. So but this also depends on the motivation. So if that helps you to develop compassion, to work harder for their well-being, so then there's some point like focusing on somebody else's weakness. Motivation is to help, to liberate the other person from the weakness. So there's there's benefit. Like not with the kind of mindset like looking down on them, looking down with a negative mindset. If you if you focusing on somebody else's faults, then there's no benefit. So only out of positive motivations. If you look at someone's weakness, so then if that helps you to generate, observing somebody else's weakness helps you to generate compassion to help them. So then there's some point. So now focusing on one's own faults. And I said this many times, thinking about something negative about yourself, if there's no benefit, so probably should not do. There's no benefit. If there's no benefit, why you think about something that something that you said, something you said is like wrong, something you think is wrong, something you did is something wrong. So there's no benefit, no benefit. As I said, unless you gain something, thinking or like focusing, thinking one's own faults, if there's some benefit to not to repeat them, if you have there some willingness to make some sort of commitment not to repeat and regret, not just regret, strongly regret, not to repeat. So then there's some benefit, it kind of purifies. So then more likely you will not repeat them again because you strongly regret. You very much regret from your heart, deep down from your heart. Example, they use like three friends. One, they all consume poison. One person died, one person very sick, one person but didn't get very sick and he didn't die. So then regret, so much regret that consuming the poison. That kind of regret, towards something, that harsh word you said to somebody, that a thought, that very evil thought that rise in your head, and like some kind of physical action that you did that directly, indirectly harm other people. If you have that kind of regret towards them, then that itself purifies, not guilt, regret. Regret is a powerful tool. It's like totally different than guilt, regret. So kind of purifies. Regretting, having a regret towards something negative is positive. Having regret towards something positive is negative. Regret can be both, can be positive, can be negative. If you regret towards something positive, so that regret is negative. If you regret towards something negative, that regret is positive. Guilt has no two things, it's just negative. Regret. When you regret, then itself purifies, that action purifies. Probably there's, when you regret, probably there's less pain in your heart, you regret. If you really strongly regret, there's much, much less pain in your heart, so there's some benefit focusing or thinking about, one's own fall. Other than that, there's no benefit. There's no benefit at all. There's no benefit. And in Buddha's teaching, you only think about your fall, or you only focus on your fall. You only think about your fall out of positive mindset, willing to purify, realize that you don't have to sink with that fall. You can be floating. It's like a piece of aluminum. If it's like one piece, it will sink into the water. But it doesn't have to be sink. If you can make it flat, it will flow. Same weight, it flows. It will flow if you make it flat. So that's same like purifying. Admit what went wrong, physically, verbally, mentally. Take full responsibility. Generate strong regret, and make some kind of commitment not to repeat them next, minute. So then slowly hour, then slowly day, then slowly week, then slowly month. So that's how you improve yourself. Okay. So that's the difference. Like in Buddhism, you only think about your faults, or you only focus about your faults out of positive mindset. So in the end, instead of feeling bad, you'll feel good. That's kind of like miracle, So you think about your faults out of positive mindset. In the end, whatever you do, like offering a food for the bird, feeding the bird in your backyard, out of that, doing some kind of positive actions, or saying something nice, thinking something positive, physically doing something good for the false, your own false, think out of positive mindset, okay? You never ever think about your phone out of negative mindset. There's no benefit. Better not to do. Better not to think something positive. Okay. Oh. So there's unless you gain something. So this is important. Why I'm repeating this, quite important. Why I'm repeating. You don't think about all every day, what I did wrong. No benefit. Why you do that? No benefit. Why you don't think instead? Why you don't think, my life is precious, every moment of my life is so precious, I'm so blessed, like when I look, something positive, doesn't have to be something religious, but something positive, look around. This is not only the world, just look at some other countries. People have, they basically live day by day. They have so much, so they're like, our lives very much blessed. So amount of pain or suffering that people go through. So can you imagine so family, they are not my choice. They are selling their girls to somebody else because they have nothing to eat. Can you imagine that? Have you ever been in that position? No? So your life is very much blessed. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be something religious, something positive. Don't you feel good? Like don't you feel your life is blessed? So like that kind of same human, like going through this kind of problem, like only thing you can do is like just pray. So that's then there's all kind of all over the world, human being going through so much, like complication, problem, suffering. But compared to that, your life is very much blessed. So that's positive thinking. Otherwise, of course you will find something to think about, something negative. If you search something to think about something negative, there's no shortage of that. You can find all kinds of things to feel, to being negative. The same other hand, there's many things you can think something positive. So the life is very much blessed. So so something positive. So there's benefit. So unless you manage to think some of you fall out of positive mindset, then please do, because you get benefit. Other than that, there's zero benefit. Why you do? You shouldn't do. Okay? So then what else?
Yes, Geshe, there was a kind of a follow-up on the idea of using negative things about oneself to purify. And that was, the person says, there are times when I go back and think about really bad examples of my faults, because it helps me feel deep regret for the way I'm still doing them. Is that beneficial?
As I said, regret towards something negative, there's positive. In Buddhism, that's the one thing, particularly in the West, why people are not able to get out of this feeling of guilt. I think deep down, I think, do you believe that you can purify? Do people believe that they can purify? I think that's because I've been here now more than 20 years. More than 20 years I've been in America. And before that I've been in many different European countries too. So why? So need to analyze why we are having so hard time forgiving ourselves. If it's all good, there's nothing to forgive. Forgive. How is it forgive? If it's all good, there's nothing to forgive. When you talk to people, oh, Geshe, it's so hard to forgive yourself. Need to analyze, need to do further analysis. Why? Maybe deep down, you probably believe that your action and your action is inseparable. That's a big mistake. That's ignorance. That's a big mistake. Sorry to say, that's complete ignorance. So then of course you do feel hopeless because you believe you and your action is same. It is not same. It's not inseparable. It's far as action is concerned, can be purified. Can be purified. Don't ever think, don't see the sun is under the cloud. It's not going to be there permanently. Sun will come out of cloud. Cloud will disappear. It's not going to be like this forever. So that's exactly how you feel, how we feel. There's like no light. That's all darkness. So another question is, why is you are having hard time forgiving yourself? Maybe deep down in your core, how you say in your core? In your core, maybe you 100% believe you and your actions is one, inseparable. Or you don't believe that you can purify, you don't believe you can be better. So that's my talking to people last 20 plus years, being in the West, in the United States, being there like that, going to different part of the world, talking to people. And I think that is the source of guilt. That's the source of guilt, not able to forgive yourself because you don't believe you can be better. What you believe is like you are just bad. There's nothing you can do. That's ignorance. That's pure ignorance. Not just you. As I said, everybody made mistake. We are continuously going to make mistake till we get enlightened or liberated. There is no perfection. Nobody is perfect. There's no perfections. Perfections called nirvana. That's called perfections. Here it's called samsara. It's hard to be perfect, being part of samsara. Physically, there's no perfections. Mentally, there's no perfections. But everybody's trying. Everybody's trying to get the best health. Eating better food, like organic food, going to whole food, walking around the lake or running, jogging, going to gym. Everybody's trying so hard to be healthy physically, mentally. I'm not sure, like in the West, what do you do mentally to physically, in order to be healthy? You do all kinds of things. You try to change your diet, you run, you exercise, you watch your diet, what to eat, the portion of the food, and see the nutrition. We do all kinds of things, take vitamins. When it comes down on mind, what do you do? Particularly in the West, what do you do? To keep your mind healthy, what do we do? There's really something to think about. The mind is much, much bigger, much more complex, much more complicated than your physical body. So we really need to think about that. So, I think so. That's my, assumptions being here 20 plus years. I think in the core, I think people don't believe they can be better, they can purify. That's why they have a ripple of negative impact, having hard time forgiving yourself, and hard you then like there's not much faith in oneself. You don't have much faith in yourself. You say, oh, I cannot do. Or maybe I cannot enlighten, I cannot liberate it. We don't have faith in ourselves. So purification, so I think it's important, purify, it's an interesting thing. I'm telling you, it's an interesting thing based on my tiny experience. I don't have much experience, I have more knowledge than experience. But based on my tiny experience, in the end, you think about something negative out of positive mindset, then you do something, in the end, instead of feeling bad, you feel good. Isn't that amazing? Same thing. What you're thinking about is something negative. Out of positive mindset, and you are doing something positive, in the end, and you feel like you accomplished something. In the end, you feel good. You don't feel bad, you feel good. That's quite, unique thing. You can do the same thing. Oh. Otherwise, the life, we could make our life very, very miserable just by thinking of not having a faith, So what do you think? That's my assumption. Being here 20 plus years, So I don't that. Now please, all my friends here, you ask yourself, do you believe that you can purify, you can be better? Do you believe you can enlighten? Do you believe? That's the main question. Do you believe? If you believe that you and your action is inseparable, then there's very thick ignorance. Then you wonder why you feel hopeless. Yeah, Someone in Buddha's lifetime, someone killed 999 human beings, has a chance to liberate. Why you are thinking that you don't have chance? Why? I'm not just making this up, this is in the sutra, the Buddha taught. Someone who killed 999, not ant, human being, managed to liberate himself. Can you imagine if you don't believe if you don't believe in purification, if you believe in your action and you are same, can you imagine how much pain that person goes through? Instead, that person managed to liberate himself. That person's name is called Angulimala. In Tibetan word is called Semutiwa, Angulimala. So now compared to amount of negative karma that's created by Angulimala, and you compare now why you are feeling that you have why you think you can't be liberated, why you think you can't get enlightened, why? Yeah. In samsara, there's no perfection. Everyone makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Huh? Yeah, so please, all my friends, you think about it, So, same like piece of aluminum. If you make it round, it will sink. If you make it flat, it will flow. What it means? It means someone who knows how to purify, they don't feel guilt. They don't sink, they flow. Someone who does not believe in purification practice, someone who does not believe in their potentials or Buddha nature or will sink like that, So, okay, so what do you say? So that's my assumptions, not believing in purification practice. So then, of course, like every day make mistake, every day verbal, the mistake by verbal, mistake by thinking, mistake by physically doing something, mistake every day, So every day is not, we are not free from mistake. We make mistake by thinking something, maybe thinking something like wrong. That's a mistake. Or can be purified. Doesn't have to go with that, mistaken thought forever. You can purify that. You can regret and be mindful. Next time, probably make sure the same thought doesn't rise. Make sure, because you are being mindful, because you don't feel good when that thought rises, you don't feel good. So make sure next time it doesn't rise. Certain thing you say you don't like, then make sure next time you don't say. You become more mindful. That's how change takes place. Okay, one step at a time, slowly, not right away, slowly. Yeah, you can be mindful. You don't have to say the same word that's causing you pain. Realizing what you are saying, remembering that event, word kind of makes you it creates pain, and you realize that, and you're trying to be mindful. So next time, make sure it doesn't happen again. So if you can stop one time, logically it doesn't make sense why you cannot stop 2 times. Logically it doesn't make sense. If you cannot stop, then you cannot stop at all, even 1 second. If you one day person comes to you, the word that you used to say, that time you are kind of mindful, then you try not to say. Oh, you stop. If you can do that, you can do again. So that's how liberation is possible. Because you liberated yourself from that word. That time you liberated yourself from that word. Saying that word, you liberated yourself. So you can liberate that from that word maybe forever, maybe a few days, few months. You don't have to say. That means you are liberated. You yourself liberated from that word that's hurting people, not just hurting others, it's hurting yourself. You now liberated from that word. You no longer say that word. You are liberated from that word. So that's why liberation is possible. That's how you prove liberation is possible. So it's all about helping yourself. Why you think good? If you think good, you will feel good. When you feel good, you will do good things. So that is meaningful life. That's called meaningful life. That's called meaningful life. So that's why you think good. Not because you believe in, you consider yourself a Buddhist. Not just that. You get maximum benefit. Whatever ways you can think something positive, you get maximum benefit. If minute you start to think something negative, you are losing your happiness. You can be Buddhist, you can consider yourself a religious person, but you are losing your happiness. You are losing the essence of your life. Minute we start to think something negative. That's why we have to be very, very mindful about, hope that every speech, word that comes from your mouth, noble. Every thought that pops up becomes noble. Every action you do, that's noble. Oh, so then probably you are enlightened. Okay, so we need to try. Okay, so I'm trying all my best. You can try. Just to be mindful. It's hurting. That's the last thing we need, something negative. Regardless if you consider yourself a religious person or not, the last thing that we need is negative thought. We don't need any of those. The best is better is no negative thought. That's the best. hard, not easy. I'm not saying it's a piece of cake. It's hard, but it requires effort. Some effort and mindfulness. Okay. So yeah. Today, what else? There's the follow-up questions.
Yes.
Regret. Sometimes you think regret. Any regret towards negative is positive. Believe or not, regret itself purifies. Of course, when you purify, there's 4 power. Among those, one of the most important ones is regret. Regret. Okay, regret is the most powerful one. Regret. Okay. Yeah, so then you are consider yourselves religious or not religious. If you believe in something or not, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You are living your life the best of the best. Best of the best. So then if something goes on, is it going to be something good? No need to worry. No need to worry. Because you are living your life, the best of the best. You are like less negative words comes out of your mouth, less negative thoughts pops up, physical action less negative. You are taking the best out of your life. So then, if you believe in this religion or not, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I think next journey is not determined based on the belief, it's based on your actions. Determined based on your actions. It's not based on what you believe. It's based on your actions. Your actions determine your next journey, not what you believe. So I'm not like discouraging you. I'm not discouraging you to believing in anything. But what I'm saying, the point is, action is more important. Okay, so then of course, if you're considered you're a religious person, then you say a lot of prayer. When you're saying the prayer during that time, no evil word comes out of your mouth. If you're saying this 1 hour of mantra or prayer during that time, negative speech is completely stopped. It's completely stopped. That there's a benefit. So that if you're thinking about the meaning, negative thought, there's no space for negative thought during that time because your mind is very much occupied with review meditation, analytical meditation, single-pointed meditations. There's no space for your negative mind because your mind is very much focused. So there's a benefit reciting mantra, reciting prayers if you're considered a religious person. So, Tanya, what else, Tomasi?
There are no other questions right now, Geshe?
Oh yeah, very good question. Very good question. Wonderful questions, like purifications. Yeah, so like we have this we get this all kind of ideas from we get this all kind of ideas, Oh, I'm not worthy to be blessed, so I'm not worthy to be blessed because I'm such and such, I don't bad persons. When you think about infinitive love, infinitive compassions does not distinguish between somebody's doing wrong and somebody's doing right. So there's more like this message for more for religious person. So when you become religious, you believe in something. So they say, I'm not worth it for this, for that, because I'm so and so, I did this, I did that. When you're doing practice, you're trying. You're trying. When you're trying, enlightened being, they are pleased because usually you are not trying anything. So now you're trying. So yeah, they are not like, you can't think, oh, they are not happy. They are happy because you're trying. They are not like us. They are enlightened. So Like same like mother, the family, mother have few children. Some of them studying very hard. One is not studying all the time, playing here there. One day, all of a sudden studying. Oh, their mother will be happy, or parent will be happy. Oh, look, it's exactly the same thing. Same thing. No? They are not going to be upset. Oh, they now look oh, he doesn't deserve, or she does not deserve any attention because they are. No, their parents are happy to see. Oh, that person's taking responsibility. No, now look, cleaning the dishes or cleaning the taking responsibility. Happy. Same thing when we try to do some meditation, some practice. So like they're happy that you're trying. So that's why I'm saying that we, some religious, if you consider as a religious person, sometimes you get these ideas, oh, I'm not worth it. I'm not going to make any progress because I did this, that. No, it's all wrong idea, ignorant. Okay. Oh yeah. What else? So very good question. Purifications. Please think about each time now when you feel that you cannot. If you like, why is so hard to forgive yourself? Analyze. Please analyze. Don't just believe. Analyze why. Maybe in the core you believe in something mistake. No. Something mistake. Maybe there's ignorance causing you. It's making you hard to forgive yourself. Purify. 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 Remember something negative out of positive mindset, doing something positive. Doesn't have to say the prayer. You could go, when you go to the store, you could say some nice word. The person who is having a hard time at the cashier, walking there, you could say something nice if you kind of make their day. So that's merit, their soul is pure merit. So that will purify your action. It's not that, difficult, so doing something verbally nice, physically, mentally, saying something good, so that purifies, Then of course, if you know some prayer, then good, you say the prayer. If you know how to do meditations, then you meditate on Bodhichitta, Shunyata, Lamrim, purifies, okay? We don't need to feel hopeless. There's always hope. There's always hope. There's always chance that we can be better day by day, month by month, week by week, month by month, year by year. We can be better. Because true nature is called Buddha nature. Oh, it's like diamond under the dirt. You can't say there's no diamond. There is diamond. There is diamond. But you don't see. It doesn't mean it's not there. It's there. No. When you clean the dirt, there's diamond. It's there. It's been there. It's there. You can see. It's all maybe wrapped into like dirty clothes. You don't believe. There, There's the true nature. True nature. We all, each and every one of us, have the same chance to be liberated. Okay. So now the Lamula, should we read a little bit?
Yes, Geshe-la, I've been having problems with the speaker. So if it doesn't sound right, then I'll have Domasi do it.
Oh, you sound very good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, we're on point 7.
It is loud and clear.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Let's go ahead. I'm going to wear like...
Day 29, point 7, the Precepts of Mind Training.
Okay.
And there are 22 of them, and we're on number 15.
Let's go ahead. So Lamala, please hold 1 second. So. Day 29, isn't it? Okay, day 29.
Yeah. Point 7. There are 22 precepts of mind training.
Yeah, you please go ahead. So I'm like,
So we stopped at what Jetsun Milarepa said. He said, I also have disgust for you. If you pity me, I pity you. Shall I continue then?
yes, yes.
Number 2, mistaken forbearance is being able to endure whatever suffering and difficulties occur while pursuing the aims of this life, such as subduing enemies, carrying burdens for friends, and so forth. Yet, being unable to bear the austerities associated with studying, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma, as well as being unable to meditate on patience with respect to even the most insignificant harm from others. 3, mistaken savoring is when we have encountered the Mahayana Dharma at this point, yet we don't savor it, enjoying the taste of the fully qualified teachings of Lamrim and meditating and mind training through studying, contemplating, and meditating on this sacred Dharma. Instead, being motivated by attachment and so forth, we are deceived by experiencing amusements and savoring all the worldly deceptions through discussion, work, and so forth, such as a means for acquiring happiness for this life, and the methods for enjoying the objects of desire, subduing our enemies, caring for friends, and so on. Number 4, mistaken aspiration is admiring those who study, contemplate, and meditate on the Dharma, yet not having the wish or aspiration to practice the Dharma by thinking, I should also act like that. In contrast, we have a dislike for the austerities required for the practice of Dharma and take delight in and aspire to worldly activities associated with this life, such as prosperity, riches and honor, fame, and so forth. Number 5, mistaken concern or sympathy.
If you don't understand, please say something, then I will explain, okay?
Mistaken concern or sympathy is not practicing the means of accomplishing the Dharma for the sake of attaining enlightenment for someone who is your rival and so forth, but instead partaking of worldly abundance that is contradictory to the Dharma. Although a king is placed upon a throne, if he engages in the activities of this life and doesn't practice Dharma, he will go to the lower rounds. Number 6, mistaken rejoicing is not rejoicing in the virtues performed by yourself and others. We should not be pleased when someone such as our enemy experiences some suffering. Nor should we rejoice in negative actions performed by others. Thus, you should strive sincerely to reverse those 6 mistaken understandings and transform them into the 6 non-mistaken understandings. 16. Do not act sporadically. This means acting fickle in our spiritual practice due to conditions such as unstable renunciation with only occasional perseverance, or going to the other extreme and meditating on mind training without even lying down to sleep, while at other times we are distracted by the activities of this life and barely engage in spiritual practice at all. Sometimes we meditate, sometimes we don't meditate. If we are sporadic in our practice, we will not make any progress. For example, when a flea and a louse travel together, each time the flea jumps, he then rests and stays still. The louse does not need to rest, and by going at a slow and easy pace, he arrives first. We shouldn't be like the flea. Instead, our spiritual practice should be continuous, maintaining a balance between tight and loose, with breaks in between, and combining our 3 doors with mind training. 17. Train with decisiveness. When a physician performs bloodletting, he cuts the flesh and the veins simultaneously. In the same way, like the way a walnut is split open, we should not have a 2-pointed mind about our spiritual practice. Instead, all our aspirations should be combined as one, and our mind should completely surrender itself to mind training. We should make a sincere effort, see our practice through to the very end, and probe the depths of bodhicitta through equalizing and exchanging self with others. 18. Be released by 2, investigation and analysis. This means that we should apply analytical meditation to mind training. We should repeatedly analyze our body, speech, and mind with great frequency. We should apply the methods for blocking whatever powerful afflictive emotions occur, such as self-cherishing and so forth. We should make a sincere effort in mind training by developing the good qualities, such as cherishing others, and by continually increasing them until it is refined. 19. Don't be boastful. We should not be boastful by continually telling others about the Dharma practices we have done to make the other person feel guilty, as though he or she is indebted to us. Instead, we should consider the kindness of living beings and work for the welfare of living beings through our practice of mind training and so forth. Once we have promised to work for the welfare of all living beings, it is only proper that we devote ourselves to it. Therefore, we should not be boastful about the long list of things we have done, such as studying text, practicing generosity, meditating on mind training, and so forth. 20, do not be
That probably indicate like that's called hidden practitioner. There's such a term called bebe nanjoba, means hidden practitioners. You don't advertise your practice. You don't advertise. You don't advertise your practice. You're the hidden practitioners. That means you are doing kind of secretly, like bebe nanjoba. Okay, so then
20, do not be irritable. When others do not respect us, and so forth, despite the fact that we are engaging in mind training, we should not become irritable by considering the various types of activity they engage in.
so here, like you hear word mind training. Lo jong, no Tibetan is called lo jong. Lo means mind, jong means training. Lo jong, same thing, mind training. Tibetan word called lo jong. Lo is mind, jong means training. Why mind training? Because self follows the mind. The mind follows afflictions. Then life get complicated. So that's why Lojong, mind training, make sure that hope that you will rule the mind. Instead, mind ruling you. So you're hoping that maybe one eventually that you rule the mind, not mind rules you. You tells mind what to do, not the mind tells you what to do, or your thought tells you what to do. So you're hoping that you can tell what your mind to do or not, other way around. That's the hope. That's why mind training is very much needed. Okay. Otherwise, there will. You paint like you painted. You paint the fire on the wall. You paint fire. No, how you say? You paint the image of fire on the wall. It looks like fire, but it's not fire. There's no heat. So without mind training, our spiritual practice looks like the image of the fire on the wall. It looks like fire, but there's no energy. There's no energy. So there's no like yeah. So then, in order to have energy for our practice, whether like reciting prayer, reciting mantra, doing some kind of like breathing meditation, 9-round breathing meditation, or breathing meditation, walking meditations, moving your physical body like with the mindfulness, all of that, in order to have some energy into that form of practice. So mindfulness mind training is very much needed. Okay. Lojo mena remove malformations. Without mind training practice, then your spiritual practice is going to be looks like the image of the fire on the wall. It's not looks like fire, but it's not fire. Okay. Just want to share there on the mind training.
Geshe, I think our time is up now.
Oh, time is up. I think Roma said my time is not up. Still 2 minutes left. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, each and every one of you coming to the class. So happy to hear that Ryan is doing better. So very good. Thank you, all of you, for praying. So now the Venerable Lamala will do the dedications. And you all have a wonderful night, okay? See you next Wednesday.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme dual Bodhichitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samandabhadra too realize things as they are, we too dedicate all these merits in best way that we may follow their perfect example. We dedicate all these roots of virtue, but the dedication praises the best by the victorious ones thus gone over 3 times, so we might perform good works. We dedicate whatever virtues we have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect, pure Losangdrapa to shine forever. Now the long life prayer for His Holiness, the land encircled by snow mountains, you're the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Chen Rezi Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara end. And the one for long life prayer. It's a Rinpoche, Jetsun Losang Gelek. The one who mastered speech at a very young age. The one with great patience who received the name of Latare. The one with great precision who stood the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa and Bliss and Void, Lama ornament of the Yellow Hat tradition. These remain until samsara ends. Long life prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels, save for myself and others, your disciples. Please, please live long. And then 7 Tara mantras for Geshe and Geshe Sangpo's long, healthy, happy lives. Om Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 Om Tare Tu Re Soha.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Here.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thanks a lot.